this meeting to order. Please turn your phones on silent. And I've asked Commissioner Woodward to lead us in the prayer and the pledge.
Please stand if you're able. Before we begin our business at hand, let us give voice to our sincere gratitude to the divine for allowing us to reach this day with the abundant blessing that our great community has been bestowed. Let us pray that, with sacred guidance from the Almighty for our decision-making, we may continue to work for the betterment of all. Amen.
All righty. Are there any additions, deletions, or wait a second. We did all this and we didn't do roll call. May I have the roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Baxter.
Here.
Commissioner Flores. Here. Mayor Marino.
Here.
Commissioner Powell.
Here.
Commissioner Sachs. Here. Commissioner Weiss. Commissioner Woodward.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, are there any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda?
Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the board, on page 6, 5A5, there's a modification in the table of content. Page 42, 5A3, there's a change in the date to correct it, along with 5A4 on page 43. On page 45, 5B1 has been deleted for further staff review. On page 50, 5C2 has been deleted for further staff review. That completes the addition, deletions, and substitutions.
Thank you. May I get a motion to adopt, please? I have a first from Commissioner Woodward, a second from Vice Mayor Baxter. All in favor, all opposed, see that motion carries 7-0. Now we are at the consent agenda. Does anyone want to pull anything from consent? Seeing no, may I have a motion and a second to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Woodward, a second from Vice Mayor Baxter. All in favor, all opposed, see that motion carries, I'm sorry, the first motion carried 6-0, the second motion carried 6-0. Now we are moving on to public hearing, item 4A1. This is the repeal, or I should say the sunset of the infrastructure surtax. Does anyone want a presentation, as I see Sherry walking here? Sherry, you can give
excuse
us
me,
a brief
Mayor.
presentation. Sir?
I believe we have a proof of publication.
Oh, yes, we do. Thank you. May I get a motion to receive and file?
So moved. Second.
Vice Mayor, Commissioner Woodward. All in favor? All opposed? See that motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Hello there.
Morning, Sherry Brown, Director of OFMB. This item repeals our 1 cent surtax. When we passed it several years ago, it started in January of 2017, and we had a sunset that if we collected $2.7 billion as a total county, not just the BCC's portion, we would sunset it in that year. So we have collected that, and it will sunset as of December 31st, 2025, at the end of this year.
Perfect. Anyone have any questions for Sherry? No? All righty. I have a motion from Commissioner Woodward. Second from Vice Mayor. All in favor? All opposed? See that motion carries 6-0. Thank you. I know that Commissioner Weiss wanted to be part of the discussion for the Palm Tran discussion. There is another, albeit brief, public noticed meeting for C1. May I move that forward?
You need to do a motion to reorder.
Okay. May I get a, can I do, I can't do the motion.
No.
But-
I would make a motion to reorder to move 4C1 ahead of 4B1, is that what you're asking?
Yep. May I get a second? I got a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? See that that motion carries 6-0. Now we are on to 4C1. And a brief presentation will be great.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Sherry Howard will be, I'm Jonathan Brown, Housing Economic Development. Sherry Howard, Deputy Director. We have Mary Waymer within our Economic Development team, Tammy Fields, and David Behar from the County Attorney's Office. And I will give this over to Sherry Howard.
Brief.
Do you have the clicker? Sorry. So this item seeks to approve an application for the issuance of the county's industrial revenue bonds for a principal amount not to exceed $250 million, conduct the TEFRA hearing, and adopt a resolution to authorize the issuance of the bonds for the purpose of making the loan to a borrower. The county has no bonds in this. The IRS code requires that the local governing body approve these bonds.
I love when it says, neither the taxing power nor faith and credit of the county, nor any county funds shall be pledged to pay the principal redemption premium, if any, or interest on these bonds. Bobby, this is in your district. Any questions? No questions, okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
I have a first from the Vice Mayor, a second from Commissioner Weiss, and let the record reflect that Commissioner Weiss has arrived. All in favor? All opposed? See that that motion carries 7-0. Now we will move back to item 4B1.
Excuse me.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Administrator Baker, County Attorney. Todd Bonlaren, Assistant County Administrator for the record, joining me today at our staff table, Ivan Maldonado, who is our Director of POMTRAN, Masimba Matumba, Assistant County Attorney, Ron Jones and Lou Ferry, both with our paratransit services and directors in that department, and Fred Lynn Jones here to answer any fiscal questions that may come up in the course of our brief presentation that we have today. We've put together about 7 slides, but important slides that we wanted to share with you. The item that we have before you today is a public hearing that's a culmination of feedback that we have received from the Board of County Commissioners over the course of workshops, as well as when we came back with our last RFP to look deep into the operations of paratransit, try to create some efficiencies as best as we can, and while at the same time working with a very vulnerable population to make sure that we still provide them the services that they need throughout our county. And today we're going to present to you a couple of concepts that have come out of those meetings in terms of our service area that we currently have in place today for ADA, and a new proposal, Connection Plus, that we've shared with the board that goes back into 2024 that we've been developing and will be a new component if adopted as part of our RFP. Also on the table as well is a small fare increase for our paratransit, going from $3.50 to $4, except for those at 100% above the federal poverty guidelines, where we've made accommodations for them to remain at $3.50, and we've done all the federal studies that comply with that. So I'm going to turn it over to Ivan to start with our first slide with you this morning.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and citizens that are here today. So during the last August workshop, we presented ridership trends for Palm Trunk Connection. And we also proposed creating the Connection Plus program to serve customers traveling outside the fixed route network with the same quality of service that our disabled citizens and transportation disadvantaged customers expect and deserve. The Connection Plus program aims to address the rising paratransit service cost due to increase in demand. As you can see from the slide in front of you, 88 trips are expected to rise from 660,000 trips in 2022 to nearly 965,000 trips by 2027. Continuing the current ADA service model and trend for county-wide paratransit transportation is cost prohibitive and greatly impacts on-time services and the quality of services that we provide. The next slide, if you don't mind, please. Thank you.
Yes. You asked about. So TD is transportation disadvantaged. So we have three types of service. ADA are those that qualify under federal ADA guidelines who have different disabilities. TD is transportation disadvantaged, and that's based on income models, so dealing with individuals that have some particular need on the financial side. And then DOS is our Department of Senior Services that we work directly with our own Community Affairs Department, James Green, and that's on direct deliveries with our senior centers through some of those programs that exist. So three distinct deliveries that we have there.
Thank you. Thank you. As per the Americans with Disabilities Act, most transit systems in the United States provide paratransit services within 3/4 miles of radius of a fixed route network. In this county, Palm Trunk Connection service exceeds ADA and FTA requirements by offering countywide ADA comparable transportation services. Doing this requires constant addition of resources to meet the continuous increase in demands. Today we're proposing the alignment and designation of a 3/4 mile ADA complementary paratransit coverage service area to serve eligible disabled passengers. As you can see, the map on the left, that is actually the coverage area that we currently do through our connection program. The proposed service areas that we are proposing for ADA transportation, or that ADA transportation buffer, is the picture on the right, which is a manageable service level for ADA complementary paratransit transportation and the type of services that most transit systems provide. We also propose implementation of the Connection Plus program to provide more efficient, cost-effective services for those traveling outside the
Ivan, hold on one second. Can you all be a little more quiet over there, please? I know. That's why I let them get in and get settled. We want everyone to hear the presentation.
Good, yeah, I know a lot of the,
I believe they have disabilities, so maybe we can give them a minute to get in, Mayor.
certainly.
I'd like it if anyone else on the dais wants to talk, please, but please turn your light on, and we will wait one moment till everyone sits. Do we have any additional cards also?
Yeah, I was going to ask if if we can make an exception for them.
Everyone settled? It's an important discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So as I stated before, we want to continue to provide the same quality services that our citizens expect and deserve. In this presentation, we're proposing the alignment and designation of a 3/4 mile ADA complementary paratransit coverage area to serve disabled passengers that qualify for the service. As you can see from the map on the right, that is actually a picture of the 3/4 mile ADA buffer. So for folks that are traveling outside the 3/4 mile distance, we're proposing the implementation of the Connection Plus program to provide more efficient and cost-effective services
Ivan,
to those folks that are traveling.
hold on one second. Procedurally, there was something that we missed on the last item. And because the IRS is here and we need to do it procedurally, if you don't mind, we know that this discussion is going to take a little bit. I need to bring that back up, correct? Okay. All right, who's got the correct wording of what needs to happen?
Hi, Mayor. Dave Behar with the County Attorney's Office. We just needed to specify that this item, the TEFRA public hearing is open, and if anyone would like to speak on this item, they do have an opportunity to do so on the Provident Group Palm Beach Atlantic bond issuance. So with that said, if I can ask you to open that up and just say that the TEFRA hearing is now open and public comments are accepted.
And this is item 4C1, correct?
This was item, 4C1.
Correct. Okay, so I will reopen the public hearing and ask if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak. Seeing none, we are closed. All good?
Yeah, and that was for the TEFRA public hearing for item 4C1. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Okay, now we will go back to item 4B1. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again. So to put this into perspective, Connection serves a total of about 8,871 unduplicated riders, and we have about 17,500 registered users in our system. About 18.6% of Connection users, that is about 1,649 riders, travel beyond the 3/4 mile buffer. 513 of those riders traveling beyond the 3/4 mile buffer receive door-to-door services through the Transportation Disadvantage Program, the one that Mr. Bonlero mentioned earlier, although they are not disabled. In the 3/4 mile buffer that we are proposing, 81% of Connection riders, that is about 7,222 ADA qualified paratransit riders, are served throughout the year.
And just as a follow-up, as we were doing reviews yesterday, one of the issues that came up or question was just if you can break down some of the ridership that we have in this area by commission district. And I just wanted to share a few of those numbers with you. District 7 is our number one in terms of unique riders with 22% of that ridership. District 3 is at about 17.9% of the ridership. District 2 is at 16.39% of that. District 6 is fourth at 13.67. And then District 5 is about 10.73%. District 1 is at 10.68%, and then District 4 at 8.55% of that ridership. So we just wanted to share some of those
The
numbers.
Vice Mayor
with the
has a
commissioners.
question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
More of a request, if you would, Todd. Would you please explain for everyone else what the difference between riders and ridership is?
Yeah, so the difference between riders and ridership, what we look at is obviously, trips is an important number for us. So ridership is something that helps us in terms of our federal funding that we get. But ridership is how many boardings that you have. And those aren't necessarily a unique individual. Somebody might ride twice a day. Sometimes they might ride 3 or 4 times in a day throughout the whole system. But riders, we try to break down to extrapolate unique riders to the system. And so the numbers that Ivan presented to you today kind of dig in to sort of the unique individual riders that we have, regardless of the ridership that we have by them.
A follow-up, Mayor. Sure. And just to clarify, so if you have to take 2 buses somewhere and 2 buses back, that's 4 riderships?
Correct. So if you're boarding that bus and you're going on that, that's counting as a ride.
And I believe in District 6, you said how many riderships there were?
In District 6, these are, the information I gave you is riders, not
Riders,
ridership.
okay. So just
So those are
clarifying the
unique
difference.
individuals. So that 8,871 riders that we've had in the last year, in District 6, 1,213 of them are in District 6.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next slide. So the slide right before you, it demonstrate our ridership weekday demand on a per peak per hour view. And so using the same service model for trips beyond the 3/4 mile significantly impact resources and on-time performance. As you can see from this slide, 423 riders located throughout the entire county are transported between the hours of 7 and 8 a.m. each day on an average. About 567 riders are transported between 2 and 3 p.m. We currently have close to 300 vehicles in our fleet of paratransit services. So the peak times that you see here, especially the latter, require the maximum amount of vehicles that we have available for that day. So continuing to increase, with the continuing increase in demand, it unfortunately forces us to continue to add resources to avoid extreme service delay, and that is on a year-by-year basis. So Connection Plus program, or the program that we're proposing today, aims to optimize resources with practices like multi-loading, trip time negotiation, and flexible scheduling. It will allow the transfer of ambulatory riders to fixed route services capable of using this service, and it will prioritize the use of TD-funded trips within budget constraints. If you could go to that. Thank you, sir. So aligning ADA coverage and implementing the Connection Plus program will be one of the first steps in fine-tuning Palm Trans overall services. As you can see from the picture on the right, the Accelerate 2031 plan aims to increase fixed route frequency on major service corridors and introduces mobility on demand options like Go Glades throughout various locations in the county, especially areas that we cannot serve through the use of fixed route service. In May this year, the frequency of the Route 43, which travels east and west along Okeechobee going to the Wellington Mall, will increase from 20 to 15-minute frequency, which is a big accomplishment. And we thank the Florida Department of Transportation for helping us fund this increase of services. In partnership also with the City of Boca Raton and the Florida Department of Transportation, we're working on expanding mobility on demand services in that city. And next year, through the additional funding for the Florida Department of Transportation, the Route 62, which travels east and west on Lake Worth, will be going from a 20-minute frequency to a 50-minute frequency, if you don't mind. So just breaking this down a bit, the Connection program, which we will plan to use for services within that 3/4 mile buffer area, will continue to meet the ADA transportation requirements for the citizens that currently use that service within that area. So obviously, they will continue to provide services, the same hours of fixed route service. Since the single paratransit fare has not changed since 2013, we conducted an independent fare analysis following Title VI guidelines, and based on the analysis, we're proposing a 50-cent single trip fare increase from $3.50 to $4. We are also proposing the introduction of a subsidy for those folks who are at 100 of the federal poverty guidelines or below, so that they can continue to pay $3.50. So just to break that down for folks that are under the 100 federal poverty guidelines, that would be a person who makes $15,650. Two persons in a household, it will be $21,150 a year. Three persons, $26,650. Four persons, $32,150. And the proposed fare changes, along with the ADA alignment connection program, was presented to the Palm Trans Service Board, and we're proposing for this to begin next year at the beginning of the year. Next slide, if you don't. So briefly, regarding the Connection Plus program that we're proposing, the program will provide the same quality of transportation services during hours of fixed route services, such as door-to-door paratransit transportation to disabled individuals traveling beyond the 3/4 mile area buffer. It will continue to provide services on the Division of Senior Services to senior centers. Transportation for low-income individuals via the Transportation Disadvantage Program will continue to be provided, subject to availability. And Mr. Bolero mentioned a little bit about the TD, or the Transportation Disadvantage Fund. We do get an allocation from the state, and then we double that allocation. So that program itself allows us to prioritize trips based on funding and based on demand. And the priority order for trip demands when they exceed funding are critical care, number one, medical, transportation, nutrition, employment and daycare, and quality of life. And again, I want to mention that program currently is being used for folks that are low income, that are utilizing our services. Most of them are being transported from outside of the 3/4 mile into areas within the 3/4 mile. So the next slide, if you don't mind, sir. So the Connection Plus paratransit trips will be negotiated as close to requested times as possible, depending on vehicle availability. Ambulatory riders traveling beyond the 3/4 mile buffer who can use, and I want to restate that, who can use the fixed route network will be transported to and from the nearest bus stop. TD riders who can travel on fixed route bus will be asked to use the fixed route system. They will also have the opportunity to purchase our 31-day bus passes that are discounted for low-income TD riders. And for fare consistency, we're proposing the same fare increase and subsidy for qualifying low-income riders as in Connection. And that basically concludes my part of the presentation.
And just to conclude our staff presentation, so a couple of things that we just want to point out, and Commissioner Powell brought this up the other day and wanted to give the rest of the board the benefit of just kind of dialing in on this. This proposal that we're giving you, if approved, will not go into effect until January of 2026. And one of the questions was, well, how are we going to communicate this, and how are we going to spend our time doing that? One of obviously the unique things about the paratransit program is we know who our ridership is. We know every single one of them. We know where they live. We know their phone numbers. We know their emails. And so we will have that unique opportunity to interact one-on-one with them starting immediately throughout the balance of this year. And so that is one of those things that we assure both our ridership, the population, as well as our staff and the Board of County Commissioners. The other piece of it too, just in terms of these fares as well, and we've not increased fares for quite some time in paratransit. The only way that we can do that is by coming back to the Board of County Commissioners, by going through the proper federal studies that are required to do that and do that analysis. So as we present these today, our intention is for those to be like that for quite some time in the future, but nothing will change from that unless this board and we bring something back to the board at a future date. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Sachs, your light is on.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Von Laren, when was the last time we increased fares?
2013.
2013, Commissioner.
Okay.
And that was both on fixed route and paratransit, excuse me.
And now we have increased our scope of transportation, is that correct? we're going to other places as well from 2013. So that would substantiate one part of increasing fares.
Well, that is one piece of it, but I can tell you, operating this system since 2013 has gotten more and more expensive every single year. The costs of vehicles, of maintenance, of operators has just continued to rise the same way it has with a lot of services that we're providing.
It's an excellent service, by the way, excellent.
And so this is just one small piece of, obviously, our funding stream to try to do what we can to manage costs at the service.
One other thing, there's a whole group of developmentally delayed adults who live in my district who will probably be using PalmTram. So I know that you said you know your riders, they know you. There are others who don't know you. So what do you suggest in getting the word out about PalmTram and about the increase in fares?
Well, first off, I would say of almost every department in the county, I would say PalmTran has one of the most prolific marketing teams and programs that I've witnessed. I mean, every time I look on television or on the radio, PalmTran is there, they're visible. We've got great partnerships with a lot of our news networks, and our ability to do that, and our social media team is one of the best as well.
Is that where we will advertise the increase in fares?
That's one place that will do that.
That's good.
On the other side, I'll just turn it to Mr. Ferry as well. I mean, Lou oversees our paratransit and the whole operation and probably has more personal contact with our entire community of riders than any one individual does at PalmTran.
Because so many of our riders don't, they need to know the exact amount of money they need to have when they get on the bus. Right. And if we don't let them know, maybe, in some type, wrap a bus, wrap one of our big buses up, or get the word out to the various communities that use PalmTram, but some way that we can let everybody know they're going to need a little more money to get on that bus, because many of them have the exact amount of money. So, sir, if you could give us that one suggestion, we'd appreciate it.
Sure. Good morning. So, Lou Ferry, Senior Manager of Paratransit, for the record. So, to answer your question, they call our call center to book a trip. So we have the audience right there that we can discuss the fare increase. We could also put it on the phone, so they have to hear it before they even get to the menu. So there's ways we can get it, and direct mailing and things like that. The one thing I'd like to bring up, you said that there's people that don't know about PalmTran Connection. I caution everyone to say that if they're finding a way to get there now, I would encourage them to keep that way and not come to PalmTran Connection. So it's one of those things on the fixed route, we want everyone to use the fixed route. We want to keep it out there and market it. And on the paratransit side, that's why our eligibility changed a few years ago, if you remember. We want to make sure the people that are using PalmTran Connection are the ones that actually have to use that. So we have to be careful with that, because the potential TD, Transportation Disadvantaged customers in Palm Beach County, is 200,000 people. So they fall somewhere within one of those transportation disadvantaged eligibility, which is children at risk, seniors, low income, and disabled. And also, there's another category that says transportation disadvantaged, which means if I get in a car accident and I break my leg, I could be transportation disadvantaged. So we have to be careful, because this program, if everyone that could use it used it, we'd all be in trouble. So that's why we're coming with these ideas here. And just quickly on the ADA part, because I know there's some new commissioners that may not understand all that. So the ADA, what Mr. Maldonado was talking about, there's a 3/4 of a boundary for the ADA, the Americans with Disability Act, okay? Now, it's an unfunded mandate, which means because we have the fixed route bus, that big bus, we have to then offer complementary, or what I'd rather say is comparable, transportation to the fixed route. Now, it actually says it has to be curb to curb. We go door to door, so we go a little bit above and beyond that in Palm Beach County. So that's the part where it just kept growing. I mean, I've been here for 23 years. The core area used to be Military Trail. Then it grew to the Turnpike. Then it grew to North County, South County boundaries, things like that. So it's gotten to the point where we actually are providing more social service transportation than actual public transportation. So these ideas we have here, it's kind of taken us back into what we probably should be doing. We had a lot of meetings with the customers. You talked about the customers. The customers understand now that it's also partly on them to try and compromise, because we've been giving them so much throughout the years, and that's why we've invited them to the meetings and we've invited them to the table to talk. So that's kind of where we are now. It's like we all have to give a little bit to make sure that this system actually sustains for a long-term period. Sorry if I went off the.
Thank you.
Commissioner Woodward, and then Commissioner Powell. Cards. Okay, Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The fare, the $3.50 or the $4, what is that actually used for? Because I know a lot of the system is, the funding of the system is supplemented, but what is the fare portion used for?
Good morning. Good morning, Lynn Johnson, Director of Administrative Services, for the record. Absolutely. So you're saying, what is the fare exactly? What does it come back? It is revenue for us, and it offset the cost of the services that we provide. Yes.
Any other questions, Commissioner Powell? Commissioner Weiss?
Thank you. And I think the one thing we didn't talk about this morning is what is the actual cost of providing this service?
You mean actual as in if we were to charge someone the actual cost, what would it be?
Mm-hmm.
So two questions maybe. So the cost of the service, so let's say 2025, what we currently spend on paratransit, our budgeted is $55 million. That is our budgeted cost for paratransit in fiscal year 25.
And what's the cost per trip?
Yeah, so we're averaging about $52 per trip.
Okay, thank you.
If we don't have any more questions for staff, we're going to go ahead and read the cards.
We have 5 cards. Nicole Fincham and Greg Paradico, the first 2.
And if you can't make it to the microphone, I'm sure we have a handheld that we can carry to you. You can read all 3.
Just for reference, the next 3 cards will also be Sylvia Peralto, Carmencita Mitchell, and Drew Merritt. Go ahead, ma'am. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Nicole Fincham Sheehan. I am a transportation advocate, a user, and someone who has worked in the industry for 25 years. I've worked mostly with paratransit, but I've done a lot of work with fixed route, and I've worked in the area of public transit, working for PalmTran, the Maryland Transit Administration, and other agencies, as well as on the private sector, working for First Transit and TransDev, and contracting with MV at times, and on the consultant side. And as far as the fares go, that is a very reasonable request to raise the fare to $4 because many jurisdictions around the country have the double fixed route fare for their paratransit service. So that is totally, acceptable, and the customers, I truly believe, would not have an issue with that, especially considering we haven't had a fare increase in 12 years. However, with the updated Connection Plus program, it is troubling to a lot of customers because it's saying that we want paratransit to mirror what the fixed route system is doing. So for example, if the last fixed route bus leaves the Gardens Mall at 6 p.m., then you would not be able to get a paratransit ride from the Gardens Mall until after 6 p.m. Or excuse me, after 6 p.m. you would not be able to get a ride from the Gardens Mall, where you can currently get one now up to around 9 p.m., give or take, depending upon where you live in the county. I truly understand the cost of paratransit and know that it is an expensive program, any which way you look at it. However, Palm Beach County is a different entity compared to many jurisdictions around the country. We are the largest county east of the Mississippi and have some of the largest ridership. That is because we are a success of our own doing, but our county is also not a fixed route county. We have decent north-south transportation on fixed route. However, we do not have good east-west transportation, and at this point in the county, the only way to build is to go west. And so with that lacking fixed route, that's where many of us who have to rely on paratransit do so. And I know it states that we're going to cover the 3/4 of a mile, and those of us who really truly need the service will get the service. But I feel like this plan should be placed on hold for the moment, and we should have some community meetings to figure out an alternative to putting together a plan to be able to sustain this service for 5 years, for 10 years, for 20 years. This was not really brought out to the community. It was proposed at the Palm Trans Service Board as well as the Paratransit Subcommittee, but many individuals didn't know that it was on the agenda ahead of time. And I feel like we need to talk to the communities that we serve. I also feel like the municipalities need to step up and help contribute financially to the cost of paratransit, because we are serving the 37 municipalities as well as working with the school district to get a better sense of understanding from them, because we are providing a lot of school transportation to those students who are autistic and things of that nature at the charter schools. And technically, we are public transit. We are not school transportation. And I feel like we need to have more community meetings and better input before we could really make a decision on a final plan of how to improve the paratransit service. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sachs has a question for you, if you wouldn't mind remaining.
I want to thank you, Ms. Sheehan, for your advocacy in transportation. I think you have some excellent points. And let me look at our staff and probably sir, or whoever you think I should direct this to. I like two of her issues that she brought up. One is when you have a meeting, you need more meetings with, and if you could, I'm sure, you don't need to tell us that you're having them more. I know you will, because you're involved in this. So at your next meeting, if you could bring up, number one, the issue of east-west routes, or routes, as they say. I say routes, somebody says routes. Because we don't have it. Many of our buses don't go west of the Turnpike. And we have 220,000 people west of the Turnpike County. So we need to discuss that. Second, I'd like for you to bring up the issue of transportation with the schools. The school district should be paying for transportation for their children who are special needs. This shouldn't be coming out of Palm Tran. No. So if it's necessary to come out of Palm Tran, we take care of it. But they should be a partner with us in this for transportation for children to schools. They get funding for that. So I'm sure you're going to do it. And this, Sheehan is in the board with you all, so that would be good if you could let her know and discuss those two issues. I appreciate all you do. Thank you so much.
Madam Mayor, may I make one more point?
Sure, go right ahead.
In addition, those of us who can use fixed route certainly do not have a problem using fixed route. However, one of the other hazards of Palm Beach County is, unfortunately, our street crossings are not the safest, and especially for those who are blind or visually impaired. Those who are not blind or visually impaired trying to cross Okeechobee Boulevard and Military Trail and other larger intersections, in order for us to be able to take the fixed route and transfer from one bus to another, we're going to have to cross those major intersections. And it's going to be detrimental to those of us with disabilities, but again, those who do not have disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores.
I think she makes a really good argument here. We're not expecting people that can't see to be taking fixed routes, correct? That they would still be able to use the connection.
Correct. You know, and as we prioritize that, we brought up the slide on how we would prioritize some of these trips. You know, clearly our intent with this program is to ensure that those individuals that are qualify under ADA, that we will still work with them to give them the best service that we can under the paratransit program that we've got in place. And so that those that qualify in there, we're going to work to our best ability to make sure that we can ensure that they've got a seamless transition to this new Connection Plus. The real focus, I think, on the Connection Plus side of this is going to be on the TD side of this, is really looking in and dialing into some of our TD riders and trying to align them a lot more with our fixed route service. You know, as part of the eligibility component of it too, I mean, that's something that we take very seriously. And we want to make sure that we are providing this type of service or connection for those individuals that have those needs in our community, that have disabilities. And then we want to make sure that we're providing options and alternatives for others that don't, in order for them to work as best as they can within the transit model that we have. I hope that that answered your question.
It does. I just want to make sure that I don't hear stories that we have blind individuals on
Yeah.
fixed routes, because that is a hazard. So thank you.
Understood. Yep.
Thank you very much. And our next speaker?
We have Greg Paradico, Sylvia Parato, Carmencita Mitchell, and Drew Merritt.
Good morning. My name is Greg Parody, CEO of Parody's Lagardère. I prefer speaking when our item is introduced.
I'm sorry, I think you're on the wrong item.
I'm sorry?
I think you put the wrong, oh, that's 5B2.
5B2, is that not correct?
Yep, sorry.
Thank you.
This is 4B1. That's okay. Do we have any other speaking cards on 4B1?
4B1, Sylvia Peralta, Carmencita Mitchell, and Drew Merritt. Is Carmencita?
I don't see the other two. Okay, they're not here yet. Good day, Mayor Marino, Vice Mayor Baxter, Commissioners, and Madam Administrator. Carmencita Mitchell, Chairwoman of the Palm Trans Service Board, Vice Chair, Lighthouse for the Blind, Professor, Palm Beach State College. I can never do this in 3 minutes, but I'll do my best, and I thank Ms. Fincham for saying most of what I wanted to say. We voted at the Service Board meeting on this very reluctantly, with trepidation, because we really didn't have clarity on the Connection Plus. That being said, we want to trust the leadership that has, in all these years that I've been affiliated with the Palm Trans Service Board, has had our vulnerable community in mind. We want to that extent, thank the commissioners for always being gracious to our community in theory, but also in fiscal practice. Those of you who are new to the dais, I think the only person who was here at the time was Commissioner Weiss, when the commissioners graciously gave us holiday service, which has meant the world to us. Many of us were never able to leave the house on a holiday to do anything. And of course, it's opened up an avenue for a workforce. At the college, we train our students to look toward workforce education, workforce housing, and as I always say, we need to be able to support that with workforce transportation. Our community in particular of blind, served by the Lighthouse, is pretty much 100% dependent upon Palm Tran. We have a stellar service, and we are so thankful for that. But I need for the rest of the community to understand that our quality of life issues far exceed most. I tried to put a limit on the service last week and go to the grocery store, and it cost me $50 round trip for Uber to the grocery store and $200 on groceries. That lasted a few days. This is not sustainable with my salary at the college. So I need you all to understand that we are so grateful for what you provide us, but we have to have continuing conversations about how to raise funding, get a dedicated funding source to be able to mitigate these costs. And among the things I would love to be able to do is I'm meeting with Mr. Maldonado in the next 2 weeks. I'd like to expand that to a meeting with Mr. Bunlaren and you commissioners as well, so that we can talk about the school issue. I've said it in a couple of settings now. I'm looking toward a run for school board next year, and as part of what I want to do is to be able to mitigate the issues that we have on Palm Tran with the students who are tapping a great deal of our on-time performance and the costs. It is a shared responsibility between the school board, between the charter schools, between the parents and our community. We can accept a $4 increase with no problems because everyone has to pay their share. But what I'm most concerned is that we don't want our students with disabilities any more than our blind community with disabilities to be left without transportation. But the very same students that we're serving, particularly those on the spectrum, may very well require our service when they are my age. So we have to have a sustainable system that can support them if they aren't able to be employed or have driver's licenses. So again, I don't want to reiterate everything Nicole said, but I do need to have more conversations, more public engagement at our service board and subcommittee meetings, because this fare increase is not going to be everything. Last but not least, we want to thank Lou Ferry for 23 years of service, and Madam Administrator, I want to take my hat off to you for everything you've done for us in our community. Thank you all so much.
Hi, I'm Drew Merritt, and I've been a rider for almost 28 years. I started in October of 1997. I moved out here. Yeah, I know about the school transportation because I wasn't able to get a school bus in my district, but I don't know, for some reason. Anyways, make a long story short, I'm very happy with UServe, and I like it. It's on time. It helps me a lot. I have not been late for work or anything, so I'm very happy with that. I just don't want to see the cuts, the 3/4 of a mile. I mean, I know if we have to do what we have to do to increase, I mean, I'd rather accept that than try to cut service and, not be, be restricted, because they tried it before. It didn't work for a lot of people. And we're going to miss Lou Ferry very dearly. He was a great paratransit coordinator and director, and he was awesome. And I also recommend that I know right now there's an interim director, but when they're hiring somebody, I do recommend Nicole Sheehan Fincham, because she knows a lot about transportation and very, very smart. And I talked to her just as much as I talked to Lou, and I think she would do an outstanding job if she gets director. So I recommend that. So I just beg you not to try to cut service and try to get more school buses out there. I would hope. And I hope that we can try to keep things the same. And I agree with Carmesita and everybody else that we need to, do, have more meetings and stuff before this, we start jumping into these cuts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sylvia? Oh, wrong one. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, that was our last card. Does anyone from the board wish to comment further? Okay, so we have 3 motions to approve. So this would be 4B1, A, B, and C. May I get a motion and a second, please? And do we need to do them individually, or we can do them together?
I prefer you do them individually in this case.
Okay.
I'd make a motion to approve 4B1A.
I have a motion. Do I get a second? I have a motion from Commissioner Woodward, or second from Commissioner Weiss. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? See that motion carries 7-0. Would you like to continue making the motions?
I'll make a motion for 4B1A. B?
Do I have a second? Second. I have a second from Commissioner Weiss. All in favor? All opposed? See that motion carries 7-0. And
I would make a motion for 4B1A, no, 1C.
thank you. And I have a second from Commissioner Weiss. All in favor? All opposed? See that motion also carries 7-0. Thank you very much for everyone being here today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you all for your support.
Okay, we are done with that portion of our agenda, the public hearing. We are moving on to the regular agenda, and we are starting with administration 5A1. This is pursuant to our discussion on the January 30th meeting and the March 11th meeting. We are looking for a motion to adopt the 5A1, which is the specified point in the agenda for board direction.
Correct, Mayor.
I see Commissioner Sacks and Commissioner Sacks, then Commissioner Baxter. Commissioner Sacks, do you have a question now, or do you want a presentation?
Presentation, please.
I will make it brief.
No, make it thorough. But make it. Thanks, Mr. Reddick.
Yes, ma'am. Following up on the mayor's point, the initial direction on this goes back to January at the zoning meeting. A number of questions about board direction, where they were. It was a question about quorum and policies, things of that sort. We met with you on March 11th and touched on those points and presented some options. First, on the policy for quorum, you have rules in place, and we're proposing, had no direction to make any changes. We'd be proposing no changes as it relates to quorum. The second part was the extent and scope of what constitutes board direction. We had that, part of that discussion.
thought that, following up on the discussion in March, there was no direction on trying to define board direction, and hoping that the path for it would be going to having a dedicated portion in the meeting, which we have included for the rules change per the board's direction, to add a spot specifically for board direction immediately prior to board comments at the end of a meeting. So in short, that is the change that we're proposing for the rules changes per your direction from the March meeting.
Commissioner Sachs, you turned your light off. Do you have any additional questions?
Sure. I'm just so impressed by the folks who came up here to talk about Palm Tram with disabilities. And just want to note for the record and for the public that we serve a wonderful community, and I see many of our folks helping them out of our meeting, and it's just a beautiful thing to see. Thank you so much for those who are helping those with disabilities today. Sure. Let's get back to 5A1. My interest in this, Mr. Rudder, and to the administration, is that everything we do must and should be transparent. And this is something that we need to make certain for the public, especially in light of past allegations, that everything is public. Every application to the board to be an administrator should be open to the public and transparent, as well as all the members that we, as county commissioners, nominate to be on the task force should be transparent. All discussions about this issue should be in open session here in the BCC. And I think that that's vitally important to note. And Mr. Rudder, if you're in charge of this, will you assure us that that is what will follow?
Commissioner, as it relates, certainly on your rules changes that you have before you, absolutely. And I think that's kind of the purpose on the direction and the points. It would be the board making them very much openly. What we tried to provide in these changes is that directed spot in the agenda for you to do it. And what we talked about last time was a little bit of what constitutes direction. I think we tried to differentiate a couple points. If you have an active agenda item before you, something in that context wouldn't need to go in direction if you were seeking additional information on that point. If it's something a little bit outside that area, having a spot specifically on the agenda can draw your attention, if you will, to it and provide you a very dedicated point for the board to take that up and offer that direction. So yes, it would be done very transparently and openly.
And that will include, Mr. Rudder, all the applications that are sent pursuant to our request, the county HR program, so requests for applications throughout the country. Those applications will be transparent and open to the public.
Yes, and Commissioner, I think you'll be taking those up in some subsequent agenda items a little bit further in the agenda.
Very good. As long as everything is transparent and open to the public, then I have no issues with everything. And thank you for that presentation. Thank you for the work. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe the points, and correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Sachs, that you were making are on 5A3, I think, for the task force.
If I may, Mayor, may I respond?
Go right ahead.
Thank you. What it is that I want to be sure that anybody who applies for this job, that application is open to the public. No secret, no backdoor fixes. Everything open to the public, everything transparent, as we should be on everything. And members of the task force, members of the applicants, names of the applicants who have applied for this job shall also be open to the public.
Commissioner Sachs, I could not agree more. I was just trying to clarify which item you're discussing. 5A1, what are we voting on currently? Not the task force. We are going to be voting on
Where on the agenda.
board direction, the agenda item is placed.
A change to your rules that would add a dedicated spot for the board, for board direction in your agendas, immediately prior to board comment. We'd slot that in.
And I do have some of my own comments that I would like to make regarding the task force when we get to 5A3, so I do appreciate opening that up. But for this particular one, I would like to make the motion to approve 5A1, or motion to adopt the board direction agenda item.
Second.
And your light is on, Commissioner Woodward. Okay, so we have a motion, a first and a second, and Commissioner Woodward, your comments?
Thank you. I just wanted to address on 5A1, what we are discussing. I wanted to thank Vice Mayor Baxter for your suggestion to have the dedicated spot in the agenda. That was very good. It kind of took care of a lot of the discussion we had, so I'm happy to see that, and just wanted to thank you for that suggestion.
Thank you.
Do we have any cards? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor? All opposed? See that motion carries 7-0. Oh. Okay. 6-1. Thank you. Okay, we are on 5A2. This is a resolution establishing and updating the uniform policies and procedures for advisory boards, committees, commissions, task forces, and authorities. And I think what we're talking about here are specifically things like the maximum number of boards in which an individual can serve, time in office, removal, quorum, lack of attendance, you name it. So, good morning.
Good morning.
How about a brief presentation?
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Administrator. Yvonne Walmsley, Agenda Coordinator. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Oh, where's the remote?
Thank you for presenting today, Yvonne. I know this is your first time.
This is my first time.
We don't bite.
She's got it. Okay. Our general updates were just basically to bring the language of eligibility terms up to date. It's been 12 years. And it's more for consistency as we relate to boards, terminology, BCC, the acronyms, et cetera. We also updated the eligibility number of terms served. Each member can serve 3 consecutive 3-year terms on one particular board, unless it is dictated otherwise by statute or binding rule. We do have some boards with members that term out. And some of these boards, they would like to continue serving on, and the boards are not able to find new members. So we've added a clause for them that they are off that board for 1 year, 365 days. And if they would like to continue to serve on that same board, they are then eligible to be appointed back to that board. Removal of a board, that was updated. That's on page 2, section 7. And then we've also updated the state of Florida and Palm Beach County Code of Ethics just to reflect this Florida statutes information.
Do you want to ask your question now?
Any comments
Hold on one
or
second. I have
questions?
actually 2 lights on.
Okay.
Commissioner Woodward.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted, I know that we have like a lack of attendance can kick someone off of a board.
Yes.
I just would like to request that for our board appointees, that we would be notified.
Yes.
If we have a person that's not showing up
Yes.
before they reach the point of removal.
Agree.
Just so we could have a conversation, see, and I want my appointees to show up, and I would like to also know if they're not. And there's too many boards for us to really keep up with, so if there's ever an attendance problem, for myself, I would appreciate being notified quickly. And
Yes.
maybe, there could be a health reason, there could be something, but I'd like to have that communication with my appointee before it reaches the point of removal.
Agree.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Baxter.
Could we add that to the resolution that we,
It's
the
stated in
board,
the-
in order for them to get kicked off, need to be notified first?
It is in our PPM that is also being updated.
So
That-
they
that's part
can't
of
be
the
removed
process.
unless we are first notified.
Right. The way it is outlined in the PPM, if there is an attendance issue after 2 absences, there is a form letter that will go out. You will be notified as well as the member of that board.
How are we notified?
It's just like the welcome
An
letter.
email, a physical letter?
Both.
Both.
Right. It's the same as the welcome letter that I issue. Once the member is appointed to the board, there's a welcome letter that is issued. They get the letter via email and mail. Your office also gets a copy of that email that is generated.
All right, thank you. And follow-up, Mayor, for the question I originally had. Will this ordinance supersede all other boards? Because there are certain boards that do have, we just updated for the Ag Enhancement Council a recent resolution. Is this going to get rid of all of that? In essence, how many seats there are? We had an issue because, it's a very unique field with a very unique industry. And so the term limits was another thing that we had just recently updated for that board. So if we pass this, does it remove everything we just did for the other board?
This one is a resolution. Later in the agenda, we have one that is an ordinance as well. It will, if there are other statutory provisions or rules that require it to be different, then that is still allowed, and that's allowed for under this resolution.
I think, Commissioner, to address your question, I think you're asking if a resolution is passed that includes more members than 9, the board has the right to do that, and that then supersedes
I guess what I'm saying, if
this.
we've already passed that resolution, this isn't changing it to where now we have to update all the...
Not at all. You have the right to approve a resolution with more board members than 9, and you've done that, and this will not change that.
Thank you.
Administrator Baker. Okay. Commissioner Weiss, and then Commissioner Flores.
Is there such a thing as an excused absence?
The only board that has an excused absence right now is the HIV Care Council. They have an excused absence policy for sick members only. So that is the only excused absence that I'm aware of for all of our advisory boards.
Is that something you all considered? I know boards that we serve on, such as the TPA, they have an excused absence provision.
Historically, this has been something that was considered by previous boards. We were having issues with having quorums at meetings, and the board in the past has said that they wanted to remove that excused absence policy, with the exception of the HIV Care Council, because a third of the members are required to be affected members. That's solely a board decision if you wanted us to include something regarding excused absences, but it is something that the board removed in the past.
I mean, do you know how many they allowed in the past?
What they did is they took a vote at the beginning of a meeting as to whether an excused absence was excused, and it became kind of remote, that every board approved it regardless of what the reason was. And that was the reason why it was a problem.
That wasn't specifically the question I was asking. I was trying to understand, did they allow 1 excused absence per year, 2 excused absences per year, unlimited excused absences per year? Would you know?
Before my history, I'm afraid. It dates back at least 13 years when excused absences were allowed for anything other than the HIV Care Council.
And in the past, it did not have a limit as to how many excused absences. Unfortunately, my history goes way back.
Thank you.
That's fortunate.
Thank you, Ms. Fields. I mean, I would think, to me, because I know I ran into this with one of our board members that unfortunately had a combination of health issues and then I think there was something else very significant causing him to be pulled off the board, and then I went ahead and just put him back on the board. because it was, they were unpreventable, and he had been serving us well. So I would think at least one excused absence would be something and I'm looking at you, Administrator, you're nodding your head.
And her light is on, so I'm actually going to have
Okay, maybe this is,
Administrator Baker.
Actually,
Guide us.
they only are terminated from the board after 3 consecutive absences, or they cannot miss more than 50% of the meetings. So there are times people will have other things. If it's an illness, then we need to be notified so that we can ensure you're notified, because that letter will go out after their second consecutive absence to just kind of warn them. If they come the next meeting, then, it starts all over again because it's not consecutive. And so if they've got health issues or any other kind of issues, all of them are excused as long as they don't exceed 3 consecutive absences and or 50% of the meetings for that year.
May I respond? And with your clarification that it's 3 consecutive, then that's something I don't think I have an issue with then.
Yes, it's 3 consecutive, and we will ensure, the PPM does already, but we will ensure that commissioners are notified when that person has missed 2 consecutive meetings, because they will also be notified.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores and then Vice Mayor Baxter.
Commissioner Weiss beat me to the punch. I just want to talk about unexcused absences. I understand the 3 in a row and missing half of the meetings, but some of these people are busy, and I don't know. I feel like there should be unexcused absences. That as a parent, I usually have parent duties. Sometimes I get ill, and I serve on a bunch of boards, and I'm absent. So if I'm absent, I can imagine other people have to go through the same thing. So it's pretty stringent, in my opinion. Although if you miss half of the year, that's considerably being absent a lot. But there are life circumstances that occur. So that was just my 2 cents. But I agree with Commissioner Weiss.
Vice Mayor.
I'm tending to lean towards agreeing as well, in a sense. I don't like the idea of that any direct appointment we make can just be removed. I think it should be up to us, the board member, to decide if we're okay with that. I like the idea of being notified after 2 consecutive misses. I don't like the idea of them being removed. And then if, please correct me if I'm wrong, did it say that once they're removed, they can't re-serve on that board for 365 days? So we can't just reappoint them?
No, that was for the ones who serve 3 consecutive
Okay, and
3-year
termed out. Okay,
terms.
that's why I'm asking, I'm just clarifying. So if you do remove them after our direct appointments, after missing 3 consecutive meetings, can we then just reappoint them right away?
They go back through the process with the application, and then I schedule with your staff and have the appointment made.
And doesn't that seem like a lot of extra work for staff? I'm just saying, like, that seems like a lot of paperwork.
This is where the updates have come into place, and there will be a mass training for all county staff and the commission staff as well. So we're all on the same page, same book.
And I appreciate that. I think if you wanted to, or if my commissioners wanted to apply this to maybe at-large seats or something that we appoint to as a board, I'm okay with that, because we do want those people serving. But I think it's a little unnecessary for us if we have a direct appointment, but I do like knowing.
Understood.
Sometimes you might want them off, and you don't want to take them off.
I don't have a problem doing that, but I'll hear what everyone else has to say. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Sacks and then Commissioner Powell.
So we're updating this, and you are going to make the following changes if we agree with that as a group. That, 1, you're going to notify the commissioners if somebody is maybe misbehaving or missing a lot of, we should know. 2nd, you allow Zoom and telephone attendance. If not, you should. The whole world does, and we can take a vote on that as well. But I think if somebody is out of town or at a soccer game or ill, that they could be in attendance by Zoom as we can, or by phone, and this is something we can discuss. It's 21st century, you know. And third, I think that it's important that the person gives an opportunity to say why he or she cannot make that meeting. And that could be up to the chairman of the meeting. I mean, you don't have to go through all these processes. I think that it could be up to the chairman of the meeting. If there's something very, very important coming up, then they could take a vote as to whether they could allow that person to be there by phone or by Zoom. So these are some of the issues. You're looking at readjusting these. I think we should make them up to 21st century here. And I think all the commissioners have very good points, well taken. Thank you.
Administrator Baker, I believe there's a statute about quorum has to be in person.
Yes, we'll address that particular issue on 5A5, just the quorum part of it.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll bring that.
Madam Mayor, if I may, though?
Yes.
And so that implicates Zoom as well, right? We cannot allow Zoom attendance unless someone is sick. Attorney General opinions dating way back. Say if you're in the hospital and you can't attend a meeting, then you can appear telephonically. Now we use Zoom. But to allow Zoom attendance would then make it very difficult to satisfy the in-person quorum requirements. And that's part of state statute. We're bringing our in-person quorum requirements back to this board to up the number from 25% to 51%, which is where it stood before COVID. Thank you.
And that's in compliance with statute.
Thank you. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you all for bringing this update and this presentation to us this morning. I have two questions, and it's along the lines of the comments and concerns of my colleagues when we talk about missing meetings. The frequency, what's the common frequency of these advisory board meetings? What, I guess I'll say on average, you know, is it 4 times a month, once a month?
You know, we've gotten to the point now where many of the boards that met on a monthly basis are now meeting quarterly and getting their work done, with subcommittees or committees meeting in between those quarterly meetings.
Did you just say getting no work done?
I'm sorry, if I did, I meant getting their work done.
Thank you.
Subcommittees and committees are now getting their work done and then bringing it back to the board on a quarterly basis.
Thank you. I think I heard you say getting their work done. The other question I have is, you know, it probably would have been good in our backup if we would have had the outline of each of the committees that or each of the boards or advisory boards and committees that we're looking at in terms of, you know, making this change for it. I think that's important because we're talking about, or we're concerned with people missing 3 or more consecutive meetings. Just to know the comprehensiveness of which boards this applies to would be important, I think.
Ms. Wamsley has a beautiful board directory available to all online at the website. How many different boards? I'm not sure of the precise number. I'm certain you have that.
We have over 60.
So if you would like a report on all 60 boards, perhaps let us know what it is that you're looking for in terms of how often they meet, I'm hearing you say, and something else.
Thank you for that. And if you could just tell us online, just in case people are watching at home or they're here and they'd like to see where those boards are. We know it's at the website, but where in particular can people find the 60 different boards if they're interested in particularly being appointed or having some type of interest in that?
So when you go to the county website, you are going to go under the resident tab, and it will show all of the departments, and you will go under the administration side that has the board of directors. And it also has the link to submit their inquiry if they would like to serve on any particular board, which that was set up not long ago, and the requests are being modified and answered. And as those applications come in and they're reviewed and approved, they are processed accordingly, whether through a district appointment or through an at-large.
Thank you very kindly.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to make the motion to approve item 5A2 with one difference, that the removing after the three doesn't apply to our direct appointments. That way staff does not have to just redo paperwork unless my board likes something different. But that's the only one difference I'd like to say. You know, our direct appointments shouldn't just be removed.
Vice Mayor, for that purpose, without having to bring this back, we can amend Section 7B, removal for lack of attendance, by adding the word, or hyphenated word, at-large members of boards shall be automatically removed. Will that satisfy your request?
So this would apply then to at-large members. Perfect.
Correct.
Yes,
Thank
thank you. That's the motion.
We'll make that change.
Administrator?
Just for my clarification, is that district appointments when the commissioner is appointing just their district?
Not district appointments, actually. You don't want that 3 consecutive absences to apply to district appointments.
Correct. That's what I'm
Correct.
clarifying.
Correct,
Okay.
just at large.
Thank you.
And I've been quiet, I'll pipe in just a little bit. I would hope that the folks that we appoint to these boards read what the requirements are of the boards and attend the meetings, because an in-person quorum is very important. Otherwise, we don't have a meeting, and if we don't have a meeting, nothing gets done. And if someone knows what the requirements are, and I've had people say to me, Maria, I would really love to be on this board, but the requirements are such that I can't fulfill them. So I guess my caveat to the board is make sure that whoever you are appointing wants to be there and knows what the criteria is. So it's up to us to make sure that our appointees know what that exact criteria is so that they can fulfill it, because it's not fair for other folks to show up for a meeting. And this is really about having a quorum. This is not about absences. This is about having a quorum. So we need to make sure that we have quorums at these meetings so work can in fact get done, because when you think of not just the staff hour that's involved with it, because, you know, the staff time for these boards, where did that page go? The staff time for these boards is equivalent to like 700 hours. What was it, 700 hours? Yeah. So we need to make sure that the folks that are coming are there, they know the requirements, and we have a quorum so that work can get done. That's all I'm going to say. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you. I do support Vice Mayor Baxter's amendment. I just want to make sure that we still would be notified if there is an absentee problem. So not that it leads to a direct removal, but I would like to know if there is, just so I can have that conversation with my appointee myself. Thank you.
Good. Okay. So we have a motion and a second with the rewording for Section 7 for at-large only. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? See that motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we are on to a resolution to establish the County Administrator Task Force.
Could I make a quick comment regarding, before they leave?
Sure. Hold on a second, Yvonne.
Since we removed the 3 absences for our appointments, can we agree that if they are absent 2 times in a row or something like that, it will come to us? Because since there's no longer,
we just,
it's still in there.
Still in there.
Okay, perfect.
There's a form letter that is changed.
Even though they're not going to be removed, you still will send the letter. Okay, making sure.
thank you. And just as an FYI, we're going to have a hard stop at 12:30 for lunch, and then if we are not done with business, we'll return at 1:30. Your tie is being commented on.
I hope in a positive way.
I could wear my husky blue and white for the women.
Go Gators, right.
Okay. All righty. Dr. Khan, have at it.
Good afternoon, Mayor Marino, Vice Mayor Baxter, Commissioners, and Administrator Baker. I'm Reginald Duran, Assistant County Administrator. I'm joined by Human Resources Director David Kahn and Chief Assistant County Attorney David Oddie. Item 5A3 is a resolution presented for your approval to formally establish the County Administrator Task Force, which will be charged with reviewing the list of eligible candidates and providing a list of no more than 5 candidates to this board during the June 3rd BCC meeting. We are prepared to answer any questions or provide a brief presentation, including a review of the process and current status if desired by the board.
Commissioner Sacks.
I'd like to have a staff report. Thank you.
So as a recap from the workshop on the 27th, staff received the following directives regarding the recruitment for the county administrator. Qualifications and eligibility, the salary range, the advertisement to be used in recruiting, the criteria for the county administrator selection task force, and the revised recruitment process. Currently, the position is posted on the following sites. Additional sites are pending. Applicants are sending letters of intent and their resumes to a dedicated email address with a deadline of April 28th at 5:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As of Friday, we had 19 people who have applied for the position. The next round, which is the task force, begins today. We have more than 5 eligible applicants, so based on directives from the board, a task force is going to be created at today's meeting. Commissioners are being asked to formally appoint their primary and alternate appointees. Once we have those applications, they've been reviewed and approved based on the agreed upon criteria from the March 27th meeting. A meeting on April 23rd will be held to review the ethics training and expectations and recruitment process with those members. This is as a reminder, this is the criteria that we reviewed and was approved at the March 27th workshop. It is consistent with the Palm Beach County Board and Committee application information, which includes contractual relationships with the county, completing ethics training and a review of the Code of Ethics, and emphasizing that members must be Palm Beach County residents. The other agreed upon item was that anyone serving on the task force will not be considered for the position.
Okay, I have a question from Vice Mayor Baxter.
Good morning.
Morning.
So there were some assumptions made about, I guess, what we knew or didn't know about current county policy relating to criteria for task force members. And I had selected someone and then realized the amount of things that they had to do to comply with a task force. Now, this, to clarify, is not a normal board that is going to be in existence forever. It's a very one task kind of force. And so I guess my issue that I have is we are putting them through a lot of extra stuff. And all I think the intention of, and I will ask Commissioner Powell after your presentation so we don't get into the middle of a long discussion during this, but I wanted to draw it to my fellow commissioners' mayor's attention that this wasn't supposed to become some big board or develop a whole new board. It was simply a task force for one dedicated purpose. And I think other than full names and addresses, I'm not quite sure why we were putting, and I understand the idea of the ethics training because we want to make sure they comply with sunshine. So I will throw that out there. But other than that, why are we, it seems like a lot of red tape just for people to serve on a task force. I'm not a huge fan of that. So I just want to make sure that we're not trying to create make it more complicated than it needs to be, is what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
I think in using this format, we were just trying to be consistent with how other boards and committees have operated.
Morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. So just to make clear, the requirement for the ethics training is mandatory for advisory boards as memorialized by the ethics code, as also resolution passed by the board, which is still in place. And sunshine is also mandatory. So
I think I
those
said I
two-
understood.
Those two are fine. Okay.
Yeah, that was good. I'm just saying the application process, and then I believe there was a whole thing about resumes, there was a whole thing about signatures, there's a whole thing. So today, like, the only thing I thought we were bringing to you guys were names. This is who we want on the task force. Did I misunderstand that? Because
No, that is it. It's just the names that they were provided today. The names of your selected person and the alternate.
okay, thank you.
Commissioner Flores.
So we give you the names, and then what?
Then they complete the application form. It is submitted, it's reviewed by the county attorney for any conflict of interest, just as we would with anyone else going to a board. And then in 2 weeks, on the 23rd, then they would do we'd be meeting with the entire committee to go over that ethics training, their expectations, and how this process will work. And then that prepares them for May 6th, when they'll receive all of the eligible resumes and letters of intent.
Okay. And what possible conflict of interest could there be? And I'm asking legal whoever, so that when we're appointing, we should know who to stay away from.
I think for the purpose of it's just a selection, if the board wanted to do away with the conflict of interest, they could, because you're picking someone of your choosing just to make a selection. So I don't necessarily think that that's an impediment if the board wishes to do away with that.
So before I wish to do away with it, I wish to know what could potentially be considered a conflict of interest.
Generally speaking, you would, in the capacity for which they're being appointed, to the extent that the board all agrees that they're their own particular person designed for, appointed for the selection. You don't necessarily know, except that it could be that they personally know a candidate. That probably would be the main reason, if they knew something about a candidate that wasn't based on their own personal knowledge. But I can't imagine too much.
Can I say something? I have a feeling like what Commissioner Flores is looking in particular. Are they a lobbyist? Do they lobby for the county? Are they a vendor? Would these qualify you or disqualify you? Does that answer? Is that kind of where you were looking?
It is, but like even the case that you're making right now, where you're saying if you know a candidate, well, I have a feeling that most of us are going to know 3 candidates because they're going to be internal, or 2 candidates because they're going to be internal, and most of us have had dealings with each other. It might be a large county, but it's still a small community. So I don't even know if that is a reason to recuse yourself from a board, because you may know of a person or you had dealings with them. But I'm trying to figure out if they're submitting an application and we're looking for conflicts of interest, I would like conflicts of interest to be defined so that I know what you're looking for.
A very basic one could be a business relationship with a candidate.
So let's walk through this, right? They don't know who's applying right now.
we're making an appointment April 8th. They have until April 28th. What are we going to do then? Then they're going to have to recuse themselves because they saw a name in there that they have a business dealing with, and I have to find another appointment?
Not necessarily. If they have a disclosed business relationship with a person, maybe they don't make a vote on that person.
Okay. Interesting.
Attorney Kaufman, would you like to comment?
Yeah, normally for a conflict of interest, we're looking for financial interest. So not necessarily that you know the candidate, but that you would benefit in some way financially, personally, from that candidate being chosen. As far as an application coming in later on and you know the person, that doesn't disqualify you. But if you have a financial interest in this person getting the job in some way, they've promised you a job, you have a contract with them that you want them to go forward with, some such thing, then you wouldn't be able to vote. You wouldn't be disqualified from serving on the committee, but you couldn't vote for that person. It's a voting conflict. So I hope that helped a little bit. But normally, conflict of interest is a direct financial benefit.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. You had mentioned on the 23rd, and the date doesn't really matter, that you were going to review the process with the task force we're putting together.
Correct.
Could you, or do you plan to highlight what that process looks like today?
The recruitment process?
No, what you will be explaining to the task force.
On the 23rd, we'd be reviewing the Code of Ethics and Sunshine Laws. We would then be talking about what the rest of this process is going to look like from their
That's what I want to
from their
know.
involvement. And
And that's what we're going to cover?
yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you. I just, as far as this slide that's discussing what the application process is, because they make good points as far as we don't know who's all going to be applying and everything, but disclosing doesn't necessarily mean disqualifying. Like she mentioned, there has to be a direct tie of some sort of financial gain. But that doesn't, it just needs to be, we want a very transparent process. So disclosing this stuff doesn't necessarily mean that person can't be on the board, or doesn't mean that, whatever. And it is going to be hard to have, 14 people who have no relationships with anybody. We're not going to be able to do that and have Palm Beach County resident, which is one of the requirements to have, these residents here. But as far as the sunshine and the ethics training, that part is there additional training that would be the HR? Because I know when I had conversations with you, it was to go over, because interviewing, there's legal requirements on how you interview, what questions can be asked, and each applicant has to be asked the same 4 questions, whatever it is. And so that is part of this training.
That would also be discussed in the training.
Okay, so, and that's something I don't think that we can necessarily get around either, because there are HR requirements that we have to abide by. But that, as far as the other training, is there anything beyond those things that I'm not aware of? Because sunshine, ethics, the HR training, what else was there that?
And then it's just the process for the next
was there something else that happened that precluded someone from being appointed to this, or?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
No,
It's just something I don't know about.
No, it wasn't a preclusion. It's just trying to fit exactly what this task force is into a board of how that's handled. The two, to me, are separate things. And to that point of, we do have an HR process, we do have all that. This is one task force for a singular purpose that I was that I say, even the disclosures, like, I don't mind disclosures at all. Please, disclose. But at the end of the day, if there is a conflict of interest, if that person can't vote, what's the point of them being there?
I think my question, because it has here disclosing contractual relationships with the county. That would be clear from the beginning. Do they have to have, how would a contractual relationship with the applicant for the position, I guess I don't.
Mayor?
No, hold on.
For the attorney.
Hold on. Ms. Kaufman.
If the task force is going to be eliminating people or selecting people, they will be voting individually on applicants and whether that person's going to go forward. So I may not be able to vote on candidate A because I have a contractual relationship with them and I'm going to make a lot of money if they get to the appointment, but I can still vote on B, C, D, and E. So they can still serve on the committee, but they can't vote for that, participate in a vote for one person. So it is important who the chair of this committee is going to be if there are conflicts so that they can navigate this and vote appropriately. And they're going to need to be probably voting on individual people so that any such conflict can be avoided.
And part of their voting is actually going to be a scoring criteria, right? So the other 6 that could vote, the scoring would, I'm sorry, this is new. I know we're all trying to figure it out and keep ourselves legal, so I'm not sure to have an answer.
Mayor, I had my light on next.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. In the application, and I think this will help us all, especially David, in the application that everybody fills out to be on the task force, it has a little section that says contractual relationships. And it asks the applicant to put in there what contractual relationships they have with the county. And then the last sentence is important here, because the last sentence says, staff will review the information and determine if you're eligible to serve, or if you may be eligible for an exception or waiver pursuant to the code. And this is by code. So this is what we have to do. And this takes care of whether they know somebody or not know. This is it. This is the law. This is our ordinance. And this is where everybody has to fill out. And this is what we will abide by. Obviously, this is the ordinance. This is what we abide by. They put it down. They may say, you know, I have a contract with the county 5 years ago. I'm asking for a waiver. And at least we know. And they may still serve if, in fact, they do have a contractual relationship with the county. So this is by law. This is by ordinance. This is what they do. Anything else that you all want to add, we need to know about it and vote on it. But right now, this is the law. And as we proceed, I'd like to comment on who's going to be the chair of that staff and other than that. But this, I think, should answer the vice mayor's questions, which are valid, and also help our legal team in understanding that whether or not they know somebody, everybody knows everybody here in this county. If you know somebody, that still does not act as a disqualification, but it is by ordinance. And it's stated right here, so it's very good. It's very clear. And the best part about this is the word, it's transparent. So thank you.
And I think also, following what Commissioner Sachs said, I actually did have someone that I was going to appoint as an alternate who went through this and said there were things he did not want to disclose, so he removed himself from the process. So
What were those things, if I may ask?
I'm not to disclose here.
Okay. Well, because I'm worried about that too. I'm worried about what people don't want to disclose and what should we really require and what we shouldn't require. May I?
Sure.
Sorry.
Your light is
I
on.
jumped on.
Go right ahead.
I just want to clarify, because when we're saying that if somebody has a financial relationship and then they'll have to abstain from scoring that particular individual, then it's going to require the alternate to score that individual because it's a total. Are we saying it's a total or it's an average?
That's something that the team, the committee will have to decide on how they're going to do that. I would not think the task force would the alternate would participate. I think that they would just be the 6 vote instead of the 7.
But hold on. So initially, there's going to be a scoring system.
Correct.
To whittle this down.
Right.
So if you remove a person,
right,
that person is going to not have enough points because only 6 people score them, not 7.
It would
So
be
that's what I'm asking.
They're going to have to figure, the task force is going to have to figure that out with help from legal. They're going to have to, and HR, they're going to have to put together a scoring system for the task force and figure out how this is all going to work. And you're right.
But isn't that what we're trying to do right now?
That has to be taken into consideration.
Well, I think that's what we're trying to do right now, figure it out here.
Okay.
Not them.
So it should be,
It would be an average.
are we saying it's an average, not a
If
total?
6 people vote, then it's an average, the average of the 6 people. If 7 people vote, then it's the average of the 7 people.
So it's not total, we're saying we're doing an average. An average, so that's a great question. I mean, are we gonna rank these people by average score or by total points?
I guess I would look to our HR director to give us some guidance on that.
Mayor, excuse me, I think when the board convenes, depending upon the number of candidates, they'll make a decision as how they're going to manage getting to that point, unless the board directs specifically, this is how they will ascertain how to get to 5. But, you know, if there's, let's say, who knows, at the end, let's say there's 150 candidates, that group's going to really have a heavy load to carry over a 3-week period. They need to quickly figure out a method to reduce that number substantially. So certainly the board can take whatever actions they deem necessary, but we thought it might be more appropriate to allow the board to make that decision as to how they're going to get this number down to a manageable 5.
So your recommendation is let the board decide? Let that board, that task force decide?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. He brought up scoring and so on, and I wanted to ask Commissioner Powell, when you provided and we were setting up a task force, did scoring ever enter the concept of this task force for you, or they were just reviewing? And I mean, we have our HR director who will be reviewing initial reviews, providing these applicants and resumes to a task force who can then pick, I believe, their top 3 to 5, whatever we deem, and then present that. Why get into scoring? I don't think that was ever part of this, and I'm just curious where it came from. Yeah, please, if you wouldn't mind.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. And it's my thought process, and what I envisioned was that these would be unranked candidates. Now, how they get there, I don't think as a board I wanted to give staff really the autonomy to really work on how we get there, because if we start whittling down into the weeds of this as a board here, then of course we're going to be scrutinized. I can imagine, whoever I pick, they may say, oh, Bobby Powell ran track with this person in 1999, and although he graduated in 99, that person started running in 2000, but they've got a relationship because they both ran track together in high school. So everything will be scrutinized, and I think it's probably in our best interest to allow staff to really work on how they get there, but I don't want to see a ranking come to us if they get to the 5 candidates, 5 top unranked candidates as they come to us. What I do also envision in terms of the task force is that it's instrumental that we get it right, because this task force, of course, will be responsible for picking the next county administrator. And I believe it's my intent that everything is open and in the public. There's no idea, although it will be alluded to regardless, but there's no idea that anything is going on outside of the normal or outside of the ordinary. I also believe that when we started talking about who the chair is, I think that's important that we allow the board to pick who the chair is, as opposed to administration basing this off of the mayor being the mayor and her pick being the chair. I think everything should we should allow the board to have that autonomy and really work on how we get there. I think we can give some direction, but I want to caution us to not get too deep into the weeds, because everything that we say will be analyzed, including what I'm saying right now, to be interpreted, and sometimes in ways that we did not anticipate that it would be interpreted. So what I do want to make sure is that we're doing a public, open process that allows for us to get to the 5 candidates with a measured way of getting there. If we can give direction, that would allow us to get there that is completely open and in front of people, as we're doing right now. That's what I want to do, because we want to make sure we protect the process. We protect the process.
How about we get the rest of the presentation? Because you may have more answers for us later on in the presentation. So why don't we finish the presentation and ask our questions when we're done? Would that be okay with everybody? All right, thank you.
Okay. So, continuing with our timeline, between April 29th and May 5th, I'll be verifying the list of eligible applicants based on the criteria that was agreed upon at the workshop, and that is posted up there. That is also on in our advertisements and our job postings. We will also be conducting background checks on all eligible applicants. On May 6th through June 2nd, the task force will convene, beginning with receiving all of the eligible resumes. They will have some time to review that on their own before we start with public meetings, where the task force will review and discuss all eligible applicants, narrow it down to the top 6 to 10, where they will then interview those top 6 to 10, and then finally narrow it down to the final up to 5 candidates that will be presented to the board on June 3rd. The task force recommendations are presented to the board on this day, and the board can choose to accept the recommendations and/or nominate additional candidates from the eligible applicants. Beginning June 4th through 13th, commissioners conduct one-on-one interviews with each of the selected candidates. On June 16th, we would be conducting a community event. More information to follow on what that would look like, but that would be the day before the final interview on June 17th with all of you. In that special meeting, the board will interview the finalists and select the candidate with the majority vote and remove the candidates with the least until we have our final candidate on that day. If we do not have a final candidate on that day, then the board shall hire a company to conduct a national search. And this is what the next 2 months looks like. This is just a summary of everything we just discussed.
Thank you. Commissioner Weiss, your light was on first. Would you like to comment? And then Commissioner Woodward, and then Commissioner Baxter.
Yeah, I had a question. So if the task force wanted to interview more or less candidates, would that, based on your presentation, will they have that flexibility to make that decision, that determination?
They would, considering the amount of time that they're going to have to do so. Based on the resolution, they had 20 minutes to interview each candidate, and that was with a 2-minute opening and a 2-minute closing remark from each candidate. So with 10 candidates, roughly 20 minutes each.
What if they wanted 12?
That would be up to the board.
Up to them?
Up to that board. Up to you, or if without your directive, it would be up to them.
I don't want to interfere with what they're doing. So I just wanted to make sure they had some kind of flexibility.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. The original document that was voted on did say 10 candidates would be interviewed, up to 10.
Well, okay. Well, that's done, so.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay. Commissioner Woodward, then Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to agree with what Commissioner Powell was saying. I think as much of a hands-off approach for us with the task force. I mean, our appointees are important, and you know, we're trusting them to deliver this to us. And I agree. I don't want us to get into trying to figure out how they get those names to us. That's going to be on you. And you know, even with the number, I guess at that point they would need to make the request to us if they could get more than 10 if they wanted to. But I see no reason for this board to be involved in the workings of that board. So I thank you for that, Commissioner Powell.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Baxter.
I do agree with several things Commissioner Powell said. I don't want them coming to us ranked. I'd like them unranked. I don't want to pick a chair for them. They should pick it themselves. I do think they should have as much flexibility as possible. Even if they wanted more than 10, I would be fine with that. And again, but I also don't want staff, right, dictating this. So if they, as a board, decide what they want to do, I want to give that autonomy. Let them choose what system they would like put in place. I don't want to choose it. I don't want staff choosing it. I'd like the board, the task force, to choose it.
Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And for clarity, I just want to make sure that we are understanding the first step correctly. The first step would be that the resumes would come in after Mr. Khan has reviewed those resumes. The first step for the task force, as I think we discussed on this board, and I just want to be clear, is the task force would then, in order to whittle them down before doing interviews, they would review the resumes first prior to interviews to whittle them down. Am I correct in that
That's
statement?
correct, and that would be done in a public meeting.
Okay, that was my first step, and I just wanted to have clarity on that. Thank you.
Okay, I see no other questions, so Commissioner Sacks?
Okay, so let's summarize. There was a letter sent on March 31st, 2025 to all of us, and it was sent from my good Chief Durnan. Who's in charge of this process? Chief Durnan, our attorney, or HR? Chief.
I think it's a collective effort to render the best decisions for this board.
Can we have the HR director? I think that's what we discussed. If there's three of you there, we got staff and the behind. Can we have the HR director be the contact person for what we are proceeding to do today? And for, to appoint a new county attorney or a county administrator? Or shall we have 5, 15, 20 people in charge? Who's in charge here? I sound like a kid, don't I? Who's in charge here, and why are you?
Administrator
All right.
Baker.
To answer that question, our HR director is the expert on this process. However, legal needs to be involved so that we're ensuring that we're following the law, and administration needs to be involved as well. But I believe that Chief Duran has been working very closely with our HR director. I've tried to keep arm's length at this as much as possible, but I don't believe that administration should be totally left out, and that would be Chief Duran, because that's who the HR director
So
reports
it's
to.
the HR director is the head of this process, always with county attorney and the executive county administrator, Chief Durnan. Is that your understanding, Ms. Baker?
Yes, ma'am, with
Okay,
due
very good.
respect.
So I know that you are the person in charge.
I'm facilitating the process,
We'll call you
following the directives from the board.
we will call you the facilitator.
Yeah.
Okay, the facilitator, along with the county and with administration, which is represented by the folks in front of us today. I have a question, specific question, and I'm going to direct it to the facilitator. And that is, in the body of this letter, you say that Yvonne Wamsley, excuse me for your last name, will review these documents of the staff, of the task force members, and advises to necessary documents to include with their application. What other documents would they need to submit other than what they will already submit with this application, sir?
Mayor, the memo you're addressing came from me.
Yes, sir,
And
that's why. So
that's
let me
what I was-
address it to the assistant facilitator, the administrator. Go right ahead, sir.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
So basically, essentially, if documents submitted were not adequate or did not appropriately respond to what was needed, that would simply be a follow-up from Ms. Wamsley addressing that. And the intent of going through her, so it'd be a one-stop shop for assuring these individuals knew who they contact in regards to getting all the information necessary to be a part of the task force.
And I would imagine that looking at the application, that each applicant to be on this task force, we would probably be talking about contracts, contractual relationships. Is that what we're referring to, sir?
I believe that was part of the documentation requested, if they had such relationships with the county, yes.
I don't know of any other, unless you know, sir, any other documents that would be necessary, maybe as to criminal record if they note it? Could that be one of them as well?
I'd need more specifics on that question. I'm not
I'm
clear
sorry,
on
I
the
can't
question.
hear you.
I'm
I'm
not
sorry.
clear on your question.
Okay, the question is this. This is from you, your letter. It says these applications go to Ms. Wamsley, and that she can then review them and request and advise as to the necessary documents to include with their application. Now, I'm asking people to volunteer their time. I just like to know what other documents, necessary documents, would be required for a member to be on this volunteer task force.
I believe what is requested is in the document. I'd have to address the document itself and go over it. I wasn't prepared to give a review of the document, but we haven't had any challenges in regards to asking people to submit information relative to our process to be a part of any of our task forces or committees.
I believe what Commissioner Sachs might be getting at, besides filling out the application, there is
Resume.
yes, I did the ethics. I'm attaching a resume and a bio. I think
So that is what you're referring, thanks, Mayor. Is that what you're referring to in your letter?
Essentially, yes, but
Yes.
you also outline things concerning criminal background and history and whatnot, and I would have had to read directly from it to get a better understanding if that were a requirement.
Okay. Now, what I want to have happen, and I'm going to again refer to you, as County Administrator, Assistant Facilitator, is that these should be made public, and they will be,
Yes.
correct? Okay, good.
Yeah.
All reviews of volunteers to be on this task force, all of those will be public. Is that correct, sir?
All of those,
All of the documentation, the applications, the names, there will be nothing in a back room or any, don't frown, because we've had those allegations.
no, I didn't
just
frown.
want
Of
everybody to
course
be
not.
public.
I wouldn't be a part of a process
All
or
of
part
what
of
she's
this
getting at is
government
all of the
if that were the case.
documentation is
Everything will be
transparent and can be, if someone wants to see it, they can see it.
Yes, with
It's all
redactions
public.
as
It's all
appropriate.
on our website. Okay.
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. So just to recap, and thank you, Mayor, we're like a Maria team here. Advertisement for the county administrator, could that be made? That has already gone out. I'd like to see what it looks like. So if you could make that public, I think it came from your office, sir?
It's on our
Is that
website
true, Mr. Khan?
currently.
It is
Dr.
posted.
Khan? Okay, so that's posted. The applications, our task force members, the primary and the alternative will also be posted. That's public. And that's it. I just want all the reviews, everything public, transparent, sunshine. Okay, excellent. I have no further questions. Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Jay. I didn't want to get tough on you, but I didn't know who was the boss. So now I know. Thanks.
Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think because we've already, even last week, we've had a number of discussions on the proposal that was put forth by Commissioner Powell. And what we're voting on right now is just solidifying any changes and amendments that were made. This is the timeline. Our duty, which the next item would be the actual task force appointees, right? So this amendment, or this motion that we're getting ready to make now is just solidifying what was already put into place. Are there any changes from what was discussed previously, or are we here? There's no amendments to what was previously proposed, right?
Correct, Mayor. I'm sorry, Mayor, through the mayor. Just the resolution needs to be approved in order for us to move forward. And I
So-
think, yes, ma'am.
In that regard, could I go ahead and make the motion to approve the resolution that was put forth before, so we can then move to the task force? You have? Okay, then.
Okay, Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I just wanted to make sure that the understanding that I have with regard to what Commissioner Sachs was indicating in terms of a facilitator is outlined in the resolution as the liaison. And the liaison is understood to be the HR director, which is Mr. Khan. Is that correct?
Mr. Khan.
Yes, sir. I believe that is the case. Under meetings and organizations, states the task force in conjunction with the task force liaison shall establish a timeline for holding meetings deemed necessary and shall adopt rules of organization and procedure as may be required. And our liaison is Dr. Khan.
Perfect. And just wanted to make sure that's on the record because it indicates in the resolution that the liaison, it says liaison, but I wanted to make sure that we are clear that it is Dr. Khan. In addition, I'm not sure, and I'll wait, but I understand that Commissioner Flores potentially has an amendment, so I'll let him speak first because I would also, depending on what his amendment is, have just a small amendment that I'd like to propose, but I'll yield to Commissioner Flores first. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Vice Mayor Baxter.
I'd love to hear Commissioner Flores' amendment.
Commissioner Flores, why don't you go ahead?
So I'd like to remove under section 4, the 3 consecutive meetings failed to appear. We are selecting a primary and an alternate, so that shouldn't really matter in this process. And we don't really know how labor intensive this is going to be. And I don't need, or I'm pretty sure you don't want your person to be removed from this task force because the alternate took their place in the meantime. So I would remove that sentence in section 4. Huh? Isn't this a resolution we're about to
Back
approve?
to this resolution in this.
Yeah, it's page 2, section 4, member removal. So I like to remove that line. What was that?
That was only,
I
that
know,
was
but
the
we are about
at-large.
to pass a resolution that has this language in it, which that's what I want to remove.
But it's superseded by the other resolution.
Well, we're about this, so let's clarify here. We just passed that other ordinance or resolution. We're about to create a brand-new board or task force that is dictated by this particular resolution. So I'm asking to remove that line so that,
The only thing that we did with the removal was at-large, not our appointees.
I understand, but if you're looking at the resolution, we're about to make a motion to approve, it's in the language.
Okay,
So
then
I
we'll
want
need
to
to
remove that
that from the
language
language.
off of it.
So that it's consistent with the other.
Want to substitute for the other language that you have?
So I would make
I
that
want to
my
strike it
motion with that
completely.
amendment.
Point of order.
And then my other question is, on the previous resolution, which is 2013-193, which I think we just amended, it asks for financial disclosure. Are we requesting financial disclosure for this particular board?
Yeah, this is consistent with other appointments to boards and committees.
So they have to disclose all of their finances to be part of this board?
That's the form, yes. Like I said, we're trying to be consistent with how other boards and committees are created.
That's where I'm getting hung up right here. It's
Which form?
It's Form 1.
Form 1?
Right, Form 1 on the
Not
application.
Form 6.
It's not Form 6. It's not the one we fill out. It's the one you filled out as the city council
It
member.
doesn't, oh, wait.
Is there any way to pull that up here real quick? Can you look that up? Sorry. So that we all know what information is being requested. Because I think you have to put your properties that you own, you have to, I mean, okay, that's, my request from this board is to remove the any member who fails to attend 3 consecutive meetings or fails to attend more than half of the meetings scheduled should be automatically removed for lack of attendance. So that's the line I want to remove.
I second that.
Okay, so what we have on the table is the motion, the item here with the removal of the attendance.
Well, I haven't made a motion, but I think Commissioner Powell had something else he wanted to talk. So I did not make a motion. I just wanted to make it clear to the board that
Part of
that's
the
what I would like to
discussion.
remove.
Okay, part of the discussion, and going forward, if there's a motion made, would be the removal of that.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, this is intriguing because when you start talking about financial disclosure, my question, and if we're going to remove it, that's fine, that works, but would they have had to do a Form 1 or a Form 6? We do the Form 6, which, you know, it's very, Form 1, right? Okay, the other part is, point of process, we just passed a resolution that I don't believe it has a new resolution number yet. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But we passed a resolution related to boards and committees and task force. And this particular item, Madam Administrator, comes after the resolution that we just passed, which references the previous resolution. So if we were to pass this resolution, would it be based on the new resolution that's not titled yet, or would it be based on the one that was in place prior to this, which I think was 2013-193? That's point of process. If we pass it as it is it based on 2013-193, which is the previous version before the version that was recently passed? That's a lot.
I'm going to look at the attorney because you approved that, now you're approving this. I would think logically it would follow what you've already approved, but I'm not the expert on this, and I guess it hasn't gone up and been adopted.
I believe that the new resolution would apply. It would be different if it was an ordinance, because the ordinance has to be filed to be effective, but I don't believe that the resolution does. So I think the new resolution is effective. However, this board can determine for your task force what you would like to apply to this limited purpose task force. So you can adopt the resolution with amendments if you would like to do so.
Thank you. And as a follow-up, Madam Mayor, my suggestion would be under Section 2A of the resolution, it indicates that the mayor's choice for the task force would then be the chair. If we could allow the task force to pick their own chair and strike that section and indicate that the task force within itself would then choose its own chair, I'd like to make that a part of this resolution as an amendment.
Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. I do think, why not just remove Section 4 in an abundance of caution? I mean, that way it doesn't matter which resolution it falls under. If we remove the fails to attend part of Section 4, and just make it simple. So there's no, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I also do agree that I don't want us choosing the chair regardless of who the appointment is. I'd like the chair to be chosen by the task force of the committee. So any motion, I would support that. I would also like them brought to us, again, I'm going to reiterate, unranked. And I would also, so I don't know if we need to add that.
That was in there.
just making sure we're all on the same board, on the same page, I mean. Also, I don't really see the necessity, other than just adding words, but really, the only limit to whom we can appoint is somebody who lives in Palm Beach County, right? Yet, under number 2, there's a B, and I agree, it is important that they are knowledgeable about public administration and government operations, but who determines that? Shouldn't we be determining that? I just didn't understand why it needed to be, I guess, reiterated in the resolution, if we're the ones making that decision. And I guess that was it. And then lastly, back to something that Commissioner Sachs had pointed out. When would, and this is for the attorney, Mr. Audi, when would Mr. Duran have to stop participating in reviewing or deciding or participating as a group when we receive applications for administration?
When would he stop participating?
Correct, because is it not, if it's more than one, then it becomes a committee of selection committee, and then it has to apply to Sunshine?
So the way it's going, it's my understanding, and that's how it has been.
Speak into the microphone, please.
The way it has been going thus far is that Dr. Khan has been reviewing the applications
Solely?
solely.
Okay.
And if the understanding is, if there's something that came up in one of the applications that was a legal matter, he would seek my counsel on that specific issue, but the decisions are being made only
Solely
by him as
by
to
our
who's
HR director.
eligible.
So to answer Commissioner Sachs's question, he's kind of the boss when it comes to these applications then.
And the chief is looking at the process that we're going through. He has not seen any applications. He has not seen any list of applicants. He does not have access to the emails portal where I'm receiving resumes.
Okay, I just want to clarify that. And as far as the process goes, I think back, again, I would like the task force to have the ability to set their process. So I don't want us telling them, this is a process. Let them set it. I mean, if they want to just pick who they pick, let them pick it. But again, they will set a process. And unless, there's a better way. I think that is the best way to say, we didn't choose it, staff didn't choose it. That's the most transparent, open to the public way to get this done. And everyone can see them setting the process as well. So I think that would be the idea. I don't know that, there are several other lights on, so I will withhold from trying to start the motion.
Attorney Kaufman.
I just wanted to caution the board a little bit about having specific requirements for the task force members in the resolution, like they have experience in public administration, that type of thing, because that will be what, it could open you up to questions about your appointees. It is, it's a valid point to say that it's up to you who you would like to appoint. You know what you're looking for in an administrator, and you know what you would like your task force member to know about. So I do think whatever you put in this resolution is important, and you will be held to that standard.
Okay. Commissioner Sachs.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to go over for the clerk, who is writing everything down. I know we don't have a transcript, but we're on tape. That number one, and feel free, anybody, to put your light on, let the mayor know, that first of all, everything will be made public. There will be no review of documents that have not already been made public and transparent to the public.
I think we
as
can
was
move
to
on from
us.
that. That's been
Pardon
very
me?
well, I think we
Okay,
can
that's
move
good.
on from that. That's
Okay,
been
so
very
no,
well
no,
stated.
Good. I'm glad. That's very important. Public has a right to know. So there will be no private review of applications that is not made open to the public and transparent. I don't know how many times I'm going to say it, but I want to make sure the clerk has it, so when we vote on this, that's number one. Number two, like a jury, the task force members will pick a foreperson and conduct the meetings as they wish. And number three, I don't see, and I think that we're not bound by any, if I am incorrect, tell me, that there has to be a requirement for financial document filed to be a volunteer on this task force. Is that, Mr. Otto, is that, is that a requirement under the law or the ordinance? We are creating something new. We're asking volunteers, and what legal requirement is there for this volunteer board to have to submit to statutory financial disclosure?
Administrator Baker?
For our task force, it depends upon the statute, the law, that says certain ones must fill out the financials.
Is that
it
this
does
one?
not apply to this one.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I'm glad,
I was
because
just
I would not like, it's okay, we got, Ms.
just gonna
Baker stated it.
verify
We
to-
don't need to have that done.
Correct.
I want to make this simple and easy. Let's move forward. Let's not complicate things. And this way, the clerk will have it down so that we can read it back and review it. And if there's anything else, I think that it's good that the clerk has it down. It's not easy, since we don't have a court reporter. So thank you, Mayor, and I'm done.
Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think my light was on due to overhang from the last time, so.
Okay. Commissioner Flores?
Yeah, I'll move forward.
All right, just to clarify, we do not require financial disclosure for this board.
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay. So then, my opinion.
You're going to try to make a motion here?
I'm not legal here, so. Should we just remove section 9, where we defer back to resolution 2013-0193? Because I feel like this is a standalone, there's no terms for this other than when this task force concludes, this is the end. So you're not going to be serving three terms. We're not doing the financial disclosure. There's a lot of things on that resolution that does not apply to this particular resolution. The things that I do see that apply is residency requirements, which is section 12, and section 13, which is the sunshine and state code ethics, but I think that's already in here, no? So I'm flipping, yeah, section 9 of the new resolution that we're about to approve, which is the uniform policies and procedures of task force, which basically that this resolution would be subject to that particular resolution. I feel like that, adding that here sort of convolute things, because we're, in one resolution, you're saying that they do have to submit financials. We're talking the old resolution we just amended. We're talking about they can serve 3 terms. We're not asking them to do any of that stuff here. So I feel like adding that or tying this resolution to that resolution makes things a little bit more complicated than they have to be. And I'm looking at the legal side of the house here.
I think we could do that since we have already, I guess, agreed to make auto modifications, which makes it inconsistent with the prior one, and also in that vein to remove 2013-193 since that's no longer in effect. So we could remove it because we're definitely not going now based on modifications that we've made. We're not consistent with the uniform policies and procedures.
Well, if I'm looking at the right thing, Section 9 is qualification as a candidate. Board members should not be prohibited from qualifying as a candidate for elected office.
No, we're in a resolution.
Okay. So it's this one.
Sure, you're 999.
3, Section
This is Section
4, Section 7, Second. Yeah, it is. Okay. Can you
There's a different
can we
version of
get,
this
okay,
online.
since some of us have different versions, they're not consistent, can we get copies of the resolution? Yeah.
We got different ones.
Mayor, I'm going to request that we get this whole thing in writing. Everything is changing right now.
I do, I agree. We have talked about so many different things and so many different iterations of this. We need to get, and I hate to say, let's do this after lunch, but where we are right now is we need to flush out exactly what it is we are voting on. Because right now, we are all over the board, and several of us are looking at different things. So we need to have what this resolution is going to look like spelled out for all of us. Okay? And that resolution sounds like it is not going to include absences. It is not going to include financial disclosure, but it is going to include that you have to be a county resident, and it is that the board, not us board, but the board that is then chosen as the task force board will be choosing who their chair is. Have I gotten, is there any other additions?
Listed them.
And their policies.
I'm sorry?
And who the chairperson and their policies, how they'll operate.
So this is a crazy discussion. So Commissioner Weiss.
I'd like to also include a vice chair, because if the chair isn't available, somebody else needs to be able to run that meeting.
That's good.
If we're not going to have any absentee requirements, so.
Absolutely, I agree.
I think we're ready.
Does that sound like we're all in agreement? So does the clerk understand everything that we've gone through and changed? Yes.
Clerk, may I, Madam
Sure.
Mayor? So removing the 3 consecutive from Section 4, that requirement, removing the knowledgeable about public admin section, which is under number 2. And we're just leaving it as you have to be live in Palm Beach County. We are removing, a Palm Beach County resident, yeah, lives in.
No.
Okay, a resident, excuse me. Remove requirement of the financial documents, we did. We also did removing the section regarding who will let the board appoint the chair.
I think so.
And I like the part of adding the vice chair, adding a vice chair part to that, and then removing Section 9 per Commissioner Flores. That was my running tally. Did I miss any?
And transparency.
And transparency.
When we see it, we'll read it, and we'll see
Okay.
if we got everything.
And so you guys are going to work on this and then bring it back to us after lunch?
actually, I think
or
I
what?
may, if
Oh,
I
okay,
may.
of course.
I think
We
we're
can
done.
hear it back, we can take the vote
Or
now.
we take the vote now?
You want to read it?
I want to read it.
Okay.
Okay, so let's have it read.
No, I want to read it.
So
You mean
what-
on paper? Yes. On paper? AI? You don't want AI? You don't want text? You
Is
want
it
email?
enough. Sorry. So Commissioner Woodward is not going to be here after lunch. She has another meeting she needs to go to. And which also means she won't be giving her input on the task force. So I would like it if I realize that everybody wants to read it, but I think we're pretty specific in what we've changed. Go right ahead.
If we take a quick 3-minute break, I can make copies, or we can go upstairs and do copies at a printer that's a lot quicker than this one here, and we can all be looking at the same document.
it's hard being back there and being part of the conversation.
I do understand that.
But we can
But we can have staff do that.
Yeah.
We can have staff do that.
Look at that. We have 30 minutes.
Okay, so would it be okay if we then, why don't we go on to we'll suspend this discussion. We will go on to 5A4, which is our appointees, and then 5A5, which would be the quorum discussion. Let's see what we can go through. We'll come back and we will finish. Can we take this out of order if we don't have the resolution?
Make a motion.
Can you appoint someone to something that doesn't exist?
Right.
That's exactly, and that's what I'm saying. If we don't have the resolution.
I'll be the vice chair.
Okay.
Sure, we voted on it, yes. Let's do it.
Go right ahead. But this is a free-for-all today.
I want to give, okay, thank you, Mayor. I would like to give Commissioner Weiss what he wants, but I think in seeing what is removed and what is added, I don't mind giving you like my little terrible handwriting checklist. But that was kind of my running tally. If I would like to, make the motion, and that's what I was going through with the clerk. Clerk, did you get all of... Do you need me to repeat it for the motion?
If you could, one more time, please.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to approve regular agenda item 5A3. Okay, we're going to remove from the resolution in section 4 that any member who fails to attend 3 consecutive meetings or fails to attend more than half of the meetings scheduled, that section, we're going to remove it. We're going to remove in section 2, under letter B, just removing letter B. But basically, it's about the knowledge about public administration and government operations.
Well, hold on, because the beginning of that is they shall be residents of Palm Beach County.
Oh, okay, but leave, yes, the part that shall be residents of Palm Beach County. We are removing the section about the chair, and we're going to leave that to the task force.
And we're adding a vice chair from, if I heard correctly.
I was getting, to that next.
Getting there, she's getting.
Sorry.
No worries. Thank you. And we're going to add a section that we're going to have a vice chair. Also, we are going to remove section 9, uniform policies and procedures of a task force. And you did get adding a vice chair, so that's the list. So I make that motion to, adopt this 5A3 with those changes. And did I forget one?
Yes, very important. I'm sorry, Mayor.
Go right ahead, Commissioner Sachs.
Maria Marino. It's very, very important that all reviews, that the advertisements for this position, that all reviews of applications for the position, applications for the task force, and discussions regarding the members of the task force and/or applications for county administrator follow the rules of sunshine and be made transparent and open to the public. I don't know how many times I said that, but I'm sure you've got that.
That's already included.
I don't know, it isn't, actually, Mr. Adi, because I have received an email. I'm sorry. Just let me say that, okay? So that it's transparent. Thank you.
And did you get all that, clerk? All right, perfect. So that's the motion. Of course.
Go right ahead.
So, Attorney Audi, I don't think that it's included in this particular resolution because you guys were referring to the other resolution. So, since we're removing item 9 or section 9, which discusses sunshine, perhaps it should be added on here.
So if you look at section 3.
Section 3? Oh, it's it on there?
Sunshine, right there.
Perfect. Then it is included.
It's included now.
And also,
Thanks.
just for clarity, Section 2, Item A, the deletion of the mayor's appointee will serve as the task force chairperson. You got that, right? So now you know where it is in this. Okay. So I had a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? See that that motion carries 7-0. We are now on to item 5A4, which I believe is who we are appointing. And my quick question is, we may be appointing people, but they may not have their applications in yet. So what we're just giving you is the names, is that correct? Okay. So I will go around the horn. Commissioner Flores, who are your two peeps?
I will be announcing mine at the next meeting. I asked HR if I could do it tomorrow, next meeting, and they said yes. Actually,
No, I'm sorry.
I asked that
Board
yesterday
direction
at
was that they had
at
to
the
be done
briefing, and I
today.
said I could bring it up at zoning.
Board direction was that they had to be brought up today.
I don't have the two people.
It's meeting. I'm sorry. We got a meeting until the afternoon, after lunch.
Yeah.
Well, you could do it. We could.
I'm going to, hold on, everybody be quiet. There's only one mayor, not 7. Okay. Clarification from our attorney. This is an agenda item. It's been on the agenda for 7 days. How do we deal with not having an appointee?
It's not really unexpected that one or more of the commissioners may not be prepared at this meeting, so I think that you probably just continue it. The people who are ready should make their appointees so HR can move forward. And then the commissioners that would like to use the next meeting, the item should just be continued to that date for finalization.
So if in fact we do have our folks ready today, give them to HR.
Right.
And
Right.
then, when is our next noticed meeting?
Perfect. Workshop is fine.
May I ask the attorney a question?
Sure, go right ahead.
We passed the last meeting saying that we had to, I think by the end of today, I don't think we said at the meeting, we said by April 8th.
Okay.
So would Commissioner Flores be allowed to provide that name?
Sure, absolutely. This is just your individual appointments to the task force. So you could do that in any way that you wanted to do it. The problem, the issue that HR is presenting is one of time frame. Okay, so it is important that we move forward as quickly as possible. And obviously, public participation.
Commissioner Flores, do you need a week?
No, there's
Is
April 22nd, it's 2 weeks.
the workshop next week?
No, there's
No,
nothing
it's
next week.
20 is the 22nd.
Just as a suggestion, we can always receive and file his appointment if he would like to do it in writing.
Can I change my appointment later?
Not once HR has notified them. I think probably up until the time the task force meets, you probably could.
Mayor, we've got a workshop on the 22nd. You could give us the information. We can get them through the process, start
But
the process.
their first meeting is the 23rd.
We've got a workshop on April 20th.
No, the first meeting of the task force is the next day.
Understand, but if he goes ahead and gives us the information and ratifies them or receive and file on the 22nd, they will already have the information. They'll be ready for our training on the 23rd. So there's a way to get through it if we can get the names as soon as possible, get them with their applications filled out and training, the other ethics training, and then on the 23rd, they're ready to roll.
Well, let me ask you a
Just
question.
ratify them on the 22nd.
Let me ask you a question. we actually don't need a motion to approve our appointees, because like every other board that we, as board members, are appointing people to, these people are our appointment. So we as a board don't need to approve any other one's appointee.
Correct.
So, having said that, I think if Commissioner Flores would be able to supply us with those names, those two names, as soon as possible, because there is a process for them to be vetted, for lack of a better term. I would say let the rest of us give the names that we have available, and Commissioner Flores as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Okay. So, I'm sorry?
Just to wrap it up, I will ask that it be placed or send us a memo so we can read into the record. Then it's in the record as to who his appointments will be on the 22nd.
But I'm going to say that it cannot hold up the process.
No.
And Commissioner Woodward.
Can I just say, and with all due respect, this timeline was put into place, and we have spoke of nothing but transparency through all of this, and these names are meant to be read out loud in today's meeting. So I rescheduled a number of meetings so I can meet with people to get this task force put into place. So I don't appreciate that this is just, here we are on April 8th. I understand you don't have the names right now, but we can't continue to do this. The majority of this board put this into place, and we are working diligently to get these names into here and to have it put off for a couple of weeks. I don't appreciate that, and it should have been read into the public record so that everybody is doing this at the same time as we agreed.
Commissioner Sachs, your two names, please.
Thank you. Joseph Shapiro and Lee Feldman.
Who is your regular and who is your alternate?
Joseph is first, and Mr. Feldman is second. Thank you.
Commissioner Woodward?
My primary is Sam Caliendo, and the alternate is Brian Stenberg.
Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My primary is Kimberly Weston, and my alternate is Bruce Lewis.
Commissioner Weiss?
Thank you, Mayor. My regular member is going to be Jay Nisberg. My alternate is Ronald Ron Davis.
Vice Mayor Baxter?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My primary is John R. Smith, and my alternate is Steve Bednar.
My primary is Ron Ferris, and my alternate is Sal Faso. And so that since we don't need to make a motion or that, we will move on to 5A5, which is the ordinance for quorum.
Mayor, if I may.
What did we skip?
You didn't skip anything, but just to expedite, if I could ask the board members to ask their assistants to please forward to Ms. Walmsley the names and phone numbers and email addresses so we can reach out to these individuals as soon as we can.
Already done. Sir, go ahead.
I wanted to ask this board if you would think, or if we could even do this, put a no lobby rule for these individuals, so you can't be lobbying the committee?
In what sense?
What do you mean?
Meaning you let them do the work without interference. Not us, the public, not, because this is going to become public record, their information, and they're going to get bombarded. So I'm trying to protect them too, that they don't. Is there any way that we can put a no lobby
rule in place that people can't bother them through the process. And I'm just asking the question out loud.
Well, if it's a transparent process, we get lobbied all the time for everything that we do. So I don't see why they're signing up for this. They know it's coming. But, okay. So back to 5A5, quorum. Who's handling that? You guys, I think you're done. This is administration, but it's another one.
Mayor, I
Yes.
can make this quick.
Sure.
What you have in front of you to date, the quorum percentage is 25% for in-person meeting, and that was established in 2020 as a result of COVID-19 and making sure we could continue to move meetings forward. However, the statute specifically says that you must have 51% in-person quorum in order to conduct the business. And so that's what we're just now bringing us back into compliance with the statute.
That's fine. I have a motion from Commissioner
presentation.
Commissioner Woodward. Do I have a second? A second from Commissioner Weiss. All in favor? All opposed? See that that motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much, and we're now in compliance with the law. Okay, 5A6, and Laura Beebe, I apologize. It looks like you're coming back after lunch. And we're going to have a hard stop at 12:30. Do we want to even start doing this item? I don't think so either. Why don't we take a, we have a bunch of cards that we'll take care of when we come back for lunch. We're going to break for lunch. We'll come back at 1:30. Sorry, y'all. Okay, we'll come back at 1:15. Hold on.
I need to make a board appointment.
I'll do it.
That'll take me to 1:30. That was what we had agreed to.
That's fine. 1:30.
1:30 it is. Thank you, ma'am.
We'll
It's a real